So I was thinking about it, right? Like, society really just naturally inflicts a whole bunch of pain and trauma on you, even if you're not even aware. Like, you could live a generally good life, yet it still like caters you to become just jaded. And I was like, it came to the point where it's like, because growing up, I really couldn't connect with a lot of other kids, so I would like, dull myself down, became like the class clown and shit. Because I just couldn't, I didn't know another way to get like, you want friends, right? So, then people thought I was stupid. And I was like, man, I'm not stupid. Like, so I turned up on this for a little bit. And then I was like, why am I doing this, right? All of those moments really just turned me into who I am. And now I'm at a point where it's just like, I'm just fully me, bro. Like, I don't wear my intelligence on my sleeve when I go out, I don't wear like my professionalism on my sleeve when I go out, right? The closest thing that you see on my sleeve, generally, if it's just a normal, average environment, is my heart. And I'm not afraid of that. Because I know who I am and I know I can protect it. Right? But people will look at me and shit, and like, I don't know. They'll make assumptions. They'll make conclusions that aren't true. They just look familiar to an experience that you may have had in the past. And you can't, and that's fair to a point. But you gotta get to a point where you can get past that. Well, it would be better if you did. Because if we just lived in a society where we could just like really teach how to understand the shadow side and really teach morals and self-control and then empathy, like we could be a way more healthy society in general. Because I'm not gonna sit here, like, you can't wear everything on your sleeve. Like, you can't. If like I could be in a suit and tie. I could speak proper. But it's almost like people are trying to force you into that role for every part of your life, or they discredit you. Like, I'm naturally like monogamous. That's how I'm set up. Ain't like, but I'm friendly. You know what I'm saying? It's not, you can't like, but if you saw my demeanor, or if you looked at me, I guess you would think that I was a player, because I think that's what a lot of people assume, right? Well, you just an ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what that is. You can't do that, because it doesn't encompass the whole of the individual or what society is. It's just, yes, our society is a little bit more fucked up, right? So you would probably, it's just more in general, you run into the lesser, echelon of relationships, and that can jade you. That's fair. But I was thinking through this, because I like genuine people. It was just a whole bunch of thoughts that was coming to my head, for real. Like, cause now everybody's like, concerned about if they're like depicting a red flag, or and they got the eye to depict, to like pinpoint every red flag they see in another individual or some shit. And I'm like, that's a whole lot of like mental thinking that you have to fucking do to make sure you're not displaying these red flags, and then to make sure the other person, like, keep a mental note for sure, but like, to do that is way too much energy, because anything could look like anything. I'm really impartial to like a clingy relationship, or like we really both just do our own things and we come together when we come together, because I really just don't care. Like, I could see both. I have my own identity, I have my own life. If they have that, that's cool, because we both have that our own life, and when we come together, that's when we come together. That it wouldn't faze me. That's not to say one is not healthier than the other. If my wife just loves to be with me, I would be like, oh shit, she just loves to be with me. That's not like something that would just fuck me up. You know what I'm saying? I was, as long as she still got her own little independence, I wouldn't mind it, because I know I have mine. You see what I'm saying? It really wouldn't. But I'm just a different person. Like, you have, if one is what you would not like, I wouldn't. If you wanted to, like, because you can meet people in the middle. You're like, okay, let me become less clingy. But if you really want to be like a boot up relationship, and that's what you want, there's probably somebody out there for you. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. But if you could cater yourself, I guess, that's fine. But don't do it to the point where you lose yourself. Just understand that you're not toxic. It might look like a red flag to somebody, but is it? You gotta ask the deeper questions. Because this shit, because if you don't know yourself, somebody can be like, oh, that's a red flag. And then you'll be out here trying to change yourself and shit off the opinion of somebody else. Because you're like, oh, no, you know what, I guess they right. And then you trying to fucking, no, you perfectly fucking fine. Like, that's just how you operate. How is that an issue? And that goes for anything. And it goes above just like one-on-one partner relationships, because I was like, the society is so fucked up. When you go through a whole bunch of shit, I mean, for anybody, but for empaths specifically, you can go through a whole bunch of shit and you can heal. And the thing is, you did that healing work. Let me see. Like, say, right here, right? So right here, that's a whole lot of work. But then you got to get to right here. And the thing is, like, society is so fucked up. Like, and it's just natural that you would assume you've healed, because now you have boundaries. Now you can say no. Now you understand what it is to be okay with self, right? But there might be like, but the way you're doing it, and because society has such a low threshold, you could appear to be here, but you're actually right here, and you wouldn't even know. And the only way to heal is to really bounce off people. But you could, I mean, that's not the only case. You could, this could be the goal line, right, to a fully healthy, operating, living being, right? And you could be right here. It doesn't matter. It's just, are you going to accept the further growth? And it's a process, and people can love you through the process. You're not unlovable while in the process. That's absurd. You might have to put a little fucking couple distances, you know, but depending on how in the process you is, but yeah, no, none of that matters. But my point is, like, when you get wherever it is, right, it's pretty much always gonna hit you blindsided. Like, oh, I thought I was, you know what I'm saying? Because if you've healed to the point where you're with your hermit mode and shit. Like now you've learned to love yourself. You know who you are. You don't fall prey or lose yourself. You have a firm sense of self and all of this shit, but you can get comfortable. It can feel good being by yourself. Or it doesn't have to be relationships. You found a good friend group that was way better than the last friend group, and you trust them and all of that stuff. But something might blindside you, right? And you have two paths for that last little bit. And it's like, okay, am I gonna go left? Right? And I'm safe here. I can keep, arm length relationships. I'm happy with myself. I'm fine. And I can continue on this way. That's a path. You can toxify that path and just become a goddamn tyrant and just be like, I control everything. You know what I'm saying? That's another way. Or you could go right and be like, you know what? I think I deserve, and I've done the work, to trust myself and my own capabilities to protect my heart, but to also be vulnerable enough and to lean out. You've done the work. If you get into it, if it is like, okay, then maybe it could register as a red flag, but you gotta go through the process to figure out if it really is. If there's too many on, yeah, you can say fuck it, but you know what I'm saying. But try to understand the person, right? See if it is or if it's not. If it's what you want, if it's what you don't want. But give yourself that ability and that freedom, because it could be everything you wanted, or it could be an experience. There's more experience. Are you gonna limit you gonna cap your success, your fulfillment? And when it comes to friends groups, like, you trust their opinion, they didn't held it down, you know what I'm saying, rock solid and all that shit. But then there's another possible person you want to go into business with. Someone's telling you, let's see what this is about. But then and it's not malicious. It's just them being fair and having trying to protect you and shit. Like, nah, I don't think that's a good one. Are you gonna listen to them? Are you gonna stay in the little clique group, right? Because they're trustworthy and way healthier than the last one, or are you gonna be like, you know what, I wanna try this, and then are they gonna in turn respect your decision? Do they think that you can make rational decisions? That's another test for them. It's just a step of growth. And I'd rather live in a more genuine society, because I have self-control. I may act wild, but that's because it's just a part of me. But I know when, like, a bit like ADHD to 99th percentile. I went through the army with none of my medication. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did my shit. Like I know how to, a nigga who's been, sporadic his whole life. Not his whole life, his younger years, learning to self-discipline so he could stand at attention for hours on end. It wasn't easy. I remember, like, when they were giving orders and stuff, I would describe it as like a dot, like that's my focus, and it would just lean off, and I'd have to like train myself to center the dot into the hole so I could keep listening. I learned to adapt. I learned to control myself. I shouldn't have to live a restricted life off of things I've already mastered based off of the opinions of somebody else who doesn't know what the fuck I've been through. That's ridiculous. I deserve to be able to freely express myself in whichever way that is. because I've already done the work to master all of that. And that's the self journey. Me freely expressing myself. The other side of that is the healing journey externally. I just know the environment I'm in is more conducive to operate the way I'm operating in. But I wouldn't hold this experience. I would take the valuable lessons. That's it. I wouldn't hold this experience to another setting. It just wouldn't. That wouldn't make sense to me. There would be differences on how I operated or how I came into this versus that, but my overall is not to just be like fuck everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not who I am. I trust myself to conduct I trust myself to know how to defend myself when needed, and whatever that is. That could, like, if shit got physical, or if, like, it's just, I'm wise enough to know, okay, this is leaning towards that, I need to move like this type shit. Like, it's I'm fine. I'm gonna be fine, and I gotta trust in God. So, even if I don't catch everything, He gonna catch what I don't catch. It allows me to live a freer life, that I don't have to worry about nothing. Just some thoughts for you.